I'm Mat Armstrong.
But more importantly, this is Kevin. And this is a super low wall on a very high balcony.
And to make this a lot safer for Kevin, we're installing a glass balustrade from Made to Measure.
So before we do anything, we need to unload the van and get all of the glass and the tracks stacked up, ready to go.
So we've managed to get all the glass off the van safely without breaking it, but now we need to get it up there.
So once we got all of our materials up onto the balcony, it was time to start marking out for our base tracks. So I made some marks using the CAD drawing supplied by Made to Measure, and then me and Matt used a chalk line to mark out exactly where they're going to go. So Matt had never used one of these before, so a little learning curve for him. Little twang, and it's as easy as that. Nice red line all the way round. Ready for the next step. And now that we've marked everything out, it's time to start installing our base tracks, including the pre-assembled corners. So because me and Matt had chalked out, we knew exactly where to place everything, so we place our corners where they need to go, and then we move on to the full lengths of track. There's going to be some cuts on this, so we're leaving them till after. We're just getting all of the full pieces in position. So when we're joining any bits together, they supply these pins. There's 3 in each join. They literally get tapped in, and then you can slide the 2 pieces together, and you haven't got to worry about any sort of alignment. $65 mil. 65. 65. 65 there. Right, so that's our full pieces and our corners into position. So now you can see why it's super important to run these chalk lines, because we know exactly where to put our pieces, and that allows us to measure for our cuts. So we're going to take these full lengths and cut them down into the 3 pieces that we need. Me and Brad then went around with our tape measure and checked all of the spaces and made a note of the cuts that we needed to make, making sure to measure twice and cut once, because we don't want any short pieces of track, not at this stage. We decided the best way to cut this was actually using a chop saw. This is a wood bit, but because aluminium's so soft, they go through nice and easy and leave a super clean cut. And we then put all of our cuts into position.
We've got every single one cut and in position. Now it's time to fix them down, and we're going to fix them down using bolts. So if you come here and have a look, there's holes in the track, and we're actually going to drill these out using M12 bolts. M12 drill bit, not a bolt. A bolt's going in after.
14 mil as well, so you messed that up as well.
Oh, scratch that. Phil just told me off. We're drilling it with a 14 mil drill bit because we're using M12 bolts using resin. Was that right, Phil?
Yeah, well, really good. To mark these, we're using a Sharpie, but it's not the best idea. It's a bit awkward. What I'd recommend is either a Marksman, which is the little paint pen, but we couldn't get one today, or I've just had the idea of using some line paint and just blast it above, and that'll show you the hole below. I'm just going to carry on with this though, like an awkward man. Right, that's all of our holes marked out, so now we're going to put our tracks on the floor in front of our wall and start drilling all of our holes. Hey, yup. Remember, bend with your back, not with your knees. Or is it bend with your knees, not with your back? You never know. We carried on taking the track off of the wall, being careful not to break anything or scratch anything, so we placed it carefully in front of the wall. And it was time to start drilling our holes. So there was about 60 holes for this. Obviously it needs to be super secure. And another thing to note, these are engineering bricks, so if you just push an SDS drill through, there's a higher chance they might break. So we used a diamond bit to break through the top of the brick, and then we ran our SDS through. And out of all of the 65 holes, we managed to break absolutely 0 bricks, so a very good idea we come up with there. So I'm just going to let you watch us drill these holes, and I'll see you in a bit.
Me and Phil are getting through these holes, but look at that dark sky, Phil.
I don't want to look at it.
Look at the sun. This is just typical English weather. We've got lovely sun, but a storm like 20 seconds away. So me and Phil are going to plough through these and we'll see in a bit. We've been drilling these holes for so long. Phil's aged about 20 years. Look at his beard.
That's all of our holes drilled, but for a little bit extra fixing, we're going to be using some CT1 underneath our track. So we're just going to run a bead all the way round in between our holes, and then we'll get ready to put our tracks back on the wall. The reason we like using the CT1 as a little additional fixing is one, it's a little backup, and two, with our weather, as you can see, it will set in water, so it doesn't matter that it's raining, this stuff will still go off. So while we're assembling our tracks for the last time and putting them in position for the last time, we are also installing any pins that we haven't put in yet, and then making sure everything is completely flush. Just give it a nudge towards me. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh.
How's that, Philly?
It's really good. Right, that's all our tracks in position. Off camera, I've just packed a couple of low spots. There's not really too many on this because it's very good wall. And now it's time to install our bolts. So these are 220mm. The reason they're so long is we wanted as much purchase inside this wall to make sure that this balustrade is never going to be falling over. So something you haven't seen us do is we've brushed out the holes and then also hoovered all of them. The holes must be super clean for the resin to get a proper fixing. So I'm going through, filling the holes with resin, and then Brad's following with the bolts, pushing them down, making sure they're nice and flat. Right, our resin is set. So before we tighten up our bolts, we're just going to pull all the protective film off. Just while we've got a bit of spare time. We then go round and just nick all of our bolts up. It doesn't take a lot, probably about a quarter of a turn, because they're obviously already flush with the track. Making sure that they're all nice and tight and secure.
So that is it, all bolted down. Now it's time to install the glass, and our first step is to install these plastic clips. Right, and all you need to do to install these is just push them into the gaps. They fit all nice and snug. And these plastic clips actually come with instructions to tell you how to space the glass. So now it's time to install the gasket. And it's just a simple case of just pushing it into this little back, what would you call that, Phil? Lip. Back lip. I found it easier when you sort of like bend that bit and then push it and then keep going like that. That seems to be the technique with this rubber gasket. Not really sure how to feel about it. I hope I ain't going to get copyright because my singing's so good. Right, Matt, go have fun.
No, we'll get this, Matt. You go driving around having a good time.
Now it's time for the exciting part. We're going to start installing the glass.
So when we're putting our glass in, to know what piece goes where, if you look on the labels that's on every single piece, it'll actually say the size. So this is a 1089, for instance, and then we'll go back to the CAD drawings that Made to Measure sent us, and then we know where they all go.
Let's pop the panes in.
Let's pop the panes in.
Oh, that sounds like a rap.
Wow,
Let's pop the panes in. Yeah?
Let's pop the red things off. Me and Brad then went around and placed all of the panes into position, always referring back to that CAD drawing. So even though we haven't got all of our clips into position, the glass is plenty sturdy at this stage. You can slide it into that first clip and you haven't got to worry about it falling over and breaking. So take your time when you're doing this. Obviously it is glass. and I'll see you in a second. Make sure your glass is nice and slippery when you're installing it, covered in water. So all of our glass is in position and we've adjusted the spaces. So on the CAD drawing again, it sets all your gaps for your glass. So now that they're in position, we could use the second clip, which is this one here. And then we face this part towards the glass. And we have one on the ends. And then we also have them in between our clips that we've put down, the previous clips. And then what we do is we actually just push these down flush like that. Just put a little bit of tension on the glass. And now that they're there, we can actually adjust the tilt of the glass so that these are all in a line. So if you come over here now. So we're going to do that all the way round, and then using this little tool that's supplied, the first clip that you put in, there's a little tiny slot. And what that allows us to do is actually tilt the glass backwards and forwards. So we're going to go around and install all of our clips, and then we'll adjust that little tiny bit of adjustment that we need to. We then go around putting the rest of our clips in. Remember, we're not putting them all the way down to the bottom of the track, just to the top, so that it's put a little bit of tension on that glass, so we can then adjust the tilt on each individual pane. Basically what we was aiming for is a nice consistent straight line, no little bits that are stepping out and looking a bit odd. And once we had done that, it was then time to send those clips all the way in. So this tool is also supplied in the kit. You sit the tool on top of the clip and then you can smack it with a hammer until it hits the bottom of the track. You then go back to the first tool that we used, and that goes in between the clip, so there's that little gap, and we tap the second part of that clip all the way down, locking everything into position. Right, now that that's all done, we can get our second piece of gasket in. So this is the bigger of the two. And then all we do with this is we just push it into the top like this. And we're just going to work our way round, pushing this in. So we'll get all this in and I'll see you in a second. Right, that's it. The balustrade is complete. Kev will now be very safe on the balcony.
I hope you've enjoyed this video. Just remember to subscribe. Love you, bye.
Where's he going?